Well, hello to my Sunday school friends. It is really good to see you. We are continuing to go right through the big Old Testament stories. We've been at it for something like 2.5 years, and we are still working at it. So today we're going to keep talking about Ahab. Remember, he is the terribly wicked king of Israel, and his wife Jezebel, who is the terribly wicked queen of Israel. That they don't do what they're supposed to do. They worship false gods. They lead the people into sin and error. They're just bad. Now, it's a story that's pretty sad because it involves not only them being bad, but also misusing their office. Their office means that they have a job to do in the world, and they're supposed to do their job right. They're not supposed to use their job for their own wrong gain. And we have politicians that do this now, that they're in politics not to serve the community, but to make themselves rich or to get stuff for themselves. And that's just wrong, right? As you grow up, you'll develop a taste, a sense for when people are just using their office for their own gains. And judges can do it, and teachers can do it so they can feel strong, and politicians can do it, pastors can do it, that's for sure. I mean, there are some pastors that are just in it to feel important, and it's just wrong. So this is a story about a wicked king and a wicked queen not only being wicked, but abusing their offices. That's the category of the story, all right? So, Ahab and Jezebel, they had a summer house, and it was in Jezreel, and Ahab liked going there, and he liked walking around the gardens of his house. He liked being out on the grass and hearing the wind and seeing the clouds. And one day he noticed that just over the fence from his palace grounds was a beautiful vineyard. A vineyard is a place that grows grapes, you know. And Ahab wanted that vineyard. I'm sure that's happened to you, that you see something and you just want it. But you know better. You know that just because you want something doesn't mean you can have it. But Ahab wanted this vineyard. And he asked around, and he found out that it belonged to a guy named Naboth. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that name. N-A-B-O-T-H. I suppose it could be Naboth, right? But Naboth. Naboth had this vineyard, and Ahab wanted it, and he was used to getting everything he wanted. So he went to Naboth and he said, "I want your vineyard." And Naboth said, "Well, too bad." And the king said, "I will buy it from you. I'll give you more money than it's worth." And Naboth said, "No." And the king said, "I'll give you a better vineyard somewhere else. I want this one that connects to my palace grounds." And Naboth said, "No." And King Ahab said, "Why won't you sell me your vineyard?" And Naboth said, "It was my father's before me, and my grandfather's before that, and my great-grandfather's before that. This is our land. This is our family land. I'm not giving it up. I'm not selling it. 4 generations at least have worked their hearts out to make this place beautiful and productive, and I'm going to hang on to it." Well, Ahab was mad. And he went back to his main castle, and he climbed into bed, and he put his face against the wall, and the king of Israel pouted. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't come out of his bed. He just pouted. A grown man and a king. Well, Jezebel went in and said, "What's going on here?" And Ahab said, "Naboth won't sell me his vineyard, and I'm very mad about it." And Jezebel said, "Aren't you the king? Take it." And Ahab said, "I can't take it, right? Naboth won't sell it to me." And Jezebel said, "Well, I've got an idea. I will take care of everything. You get up and be cheerful and eat." So Jezebel did something very wicked. She wrote some letters, and she signed the king's name to them, and she put the king's stamp on them, and she sent them to the elders, to the people who were in charge in Jezreel. And she said, "What I want you to do is I want you to invite Naboth to a banquet. And at the banquet, I want you to have a couple of criminals, a couple of liars, accuse him publicly of cursing God and cursing the king, and have him stoned to death. Now, it wasn't true. Naboth hadn't done anything like that. But this is an order from the queen, and the people who were in the government in Jezreel, they read this, and I don't know what they thought about it, but they didn't have the courage to do the right thing. So they had a banquet, and they invited Naboth, and they had a couple of criminals stand by him. And when the banquet started, the criminals said, "Naboth cursed God and cursed the king." And they didn't do anything to give him his rights, to defend himself, nothing. They just dragged him out, and they threw rocks at him until he was dead. Can you imagine that? And then they sent word to Jezebel, saying, "We did what you said. Naboth is dead." And Jezebel went to Ahab and said, "Why don't you go take possession of that vineyard? Naboth is dead." So Ahab went, and he took possession of that vineyard. Now, while he was there, while he was walking around it, Elijah showed up. And Ahab knew that this couldn't be good. And Elijah said to him, "What you have done is unbelievably wicked, even for you. I mean, I'm used to you and your wife being wicked, but this takes the cake. And you know what? Because you killed Naboth, you're gonna die. God is not gonna put up with you anymore. Misusing your office, being a wicked king, doing the wrong thing." Well, it really scared Ahab. And he tore his clothes, and he put ashes on his head, and he cried out to God to have mercy on him and to forgive him. So God talked to Elijah again. He said, "Do you see how Ahab is sorry? Do you see how he's apologizing? I'm not going to punish him. I am going to punish his house, his family. I am going to take the kingdom away from his family. I'll do it after Ahab's dead, but because he's apologizing, I'm going to let him live out his life as king." There's an awful lot there for us to think about, isn't there? That God is merciful to us, that God has compassion for us, that even when we have been bad, really bad, if we ask God's forgiveness, God gives us forgiveness. And what was true in the Old Testament is now 100 times more true because of Jesus. It doesn't matter if you've made terrible mistakes. You can turn your life around right now. That Jesus is waiting for you. Jesus loves you. Jesus will encourage you and lead you and keep you and help you so that you can become the person that God wanted you to be. Remember this story of Ahab. Remember how God was merciful even to him. Remember that we're supposed to use our offices well to serve our neighbors. And we're going to keep doing these Bible stories until we get up to the time of Jesus. You take care, my friend. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're healthy. I hope school is going well. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.